Hey, thanks for joining me today. I'd like to show you a really easy and beautiful technique of brush embroidery. It looks a lot more difficult than it really is. It's just basically royal icing. I make that from meringue powder, recipes right on the back. Here I've got my royal icing prepared, and I always make sure that it's not going to dry out from the back side. I tie it with a bag tie, and then I make sure the tip's not going to dry out. Put it in this bag stand with a moist sponge, and you're ready to go. So let's just get started. Basically, you want not a very small tip. Number 2, number 3, something like that is going to be ideal. Now all I'm going to do, you want to make sure you pipe one petal at a time. If you try to pipe, let's say you have a 5-petal flower and you try to pipe them all and then go brush through them, the last petals will have dried out by the time you get to them. So just work with one petal at a time. And this is a little bit of a smaller tip, so I'm just going to make the petals themselves a little bit smaller. All right. I like to do a little bit of a frill at the end of it. I'm not too worried about the shape of that. It doesn't need to be super, super clean because you're brushing right through it. So I just wet the tip of my brush, and I want to make sure this is nice and stiff bristles. The dragging through it motion is what's going to give that nice texture on there. So let's just get started. I come to the top of it, top of the line that I piped, and just drag it right through. Drag it right through. Now every couple of strokes, you're going to want to stop and clean your brush. That built up icing can make the rest of this messy, okay? As long as it still feels slightly damp, it's good. You don't need to re-dip it in the water. So what I'm imagining here is kind of a center point. Let's say I have a center point right here. So no matter where I'm dragging from, I'm going towards that center point. So we'll just continue on. All right, so that's our first petal. Now we can go pipe our second one. I'm going to keep this somewhat small, again, and just kind of giving a little frill. I'll go ahead and re-moisten my brush a little bit, but make sure that excess gets off. It's not supposed to be real wet. Okay, now see how this is kind of building up? That's a good signal you need to clean that brush. Get that off of there. Just take your time with this. Sometimes people get in a rush and it doesn't show the strokes as pretty as you want it to. So just take your time with it. Again, going towards that center point right here. If you don't like the shape of it, you can also take another brush and kind of, even if it's on the fondant, you can kind of reshape it a little bit. So those were a little bit too pointy for me. I'm going to reshape that. All right, going on to the next petal. Again, a little frill at the top. Re-wet that, get off the excess water. Clean that brush. All right, pretty happy with that. Give a few more defining strokes in there. You can always go back and correct it a little bit if you're not in love with it. All right, another petal. And don't forget, I'm not starting down on the surface of the mat. I'm starting at the top of where I piped and then dragging it down to the mat. And what that's going to do is going to leave you this definition, a little bit higher icing out here on the outside. Okay. Last petal. So here I'm kind of feeling like I piped it a little bit thick. So I'm really giving a good drag to it and then cleaning my brush again and then dragging through again. And what that does is it kind of helps remove some of that excess icing. And then it defines it again with more brush strokes. The defined brush strokes really is what gives this effect such a great look. So again, it's a little bit thick there. I'm going to drag and clean, drag and clean. You do have control over this. You got a little time to work with it before it dries. All right, so just kind of shaping that towards that center point again. Okay, now what you can do here, let's say I want a multi-layered flower, maybe not just those 5 petals. They usually have interior petals. Now I'm not going to cover up way up here because I want to see those pretty brush strokes and whatever color the icing is behind it. So I can just do, we'll just do a 2 frill thing here. And then drag this in. Again, that's a little bit thick, so just clean your brush after each stroke. You can still get that nice brush effect. Okay. There we go. Just take your time and shape it nicely. And then you can keep going around in the center here and do some more frills if you want to. All right, we'll just do one more petal in the center here to finish this off. Make sure that tip's nice and clean. All right, pretty happy with that. Maybe I'll, you can play with it a little bit. Like maybe I want to layer one more petal here or that sort of thing, but I'm pretty happy with that. You can also do, like we did on this cake over here, some leaves, some little berries and stems like that. Brush embroidery, it's really a simple thing to do. You can certainly do it on cookies, you can do it on cakes. It looks great as a monogram. But the important thing is to have the right consistency of royal icing and then a good stiff brush, and just make sure you clean that brush with your strokes. But I think it's a pretty simple technique, and I hope you give it a try. Thanks for watching.